Welcome. You are tuned into another episode of Crosstalk. Our guest today so happens to be Whitman Fire Chief Tim Clancy, as we do this on a regular basis to try to be in touch with what's going on with the local fire service. Chief, welcome back.
Well, thanks for having me, Kevin. Thank you for coming by to Whitman Fire today to sit down and discuss some of the current topics.
Yeah, let's start off a little bit with what is the latest at Whitman Rescue Fire.
The latest at Whitman Fire is we've had a retirement, which I'll get to. We had a retirement, so coming up in the not-so-distant future, we'll be having some provisional appointments and some temporary appointments so a test can take place. But we're going to have some moving parts, and people are going to be moving around. The plan coming up in the near future is we're going to be hiring some people. We're going to hire one, and then we have some anticipated retirements coming up. They will be looking into the future to hire some more people. So you're going to see some changing faces here at Whitman Fire Rescue. Some other exciting news is we were awarded 3 AFG grants, Assistant for Firefighter grants through the Federal Emergency Management Agency. One grant is to replace our portable radios. One grant is to replace a 1986 brush truck. And the last grant is, they'll be going before the town at some point, will be a training grant, in which will afford the members an opportunity to come in and take a 2-day class on emergency vehicle operations, engine operations, and ladder operations. Although our members train frequently, they train a lot, I think it's imperative that we bring in some outside agencies to evaluate where we are and to make sure that we all get up to the same level and make sure we're not missing anything. So I'm very excited about when those 3 grants get to be executed, and that's really where we're standing right now.
How important are grants to the fire service, and especially your department?
Grants are vitally important. I think if the federal government wants to help us buy needed equipment for the department, I think it would be foolish for me not to go for them. That I should try and get those grants. The thing with the AFG grants are they're competitive. They're nationwide, and they're rated by evaluation boards to look at the want and the need. They really look at the need. Everybody wants stuff, right? But they really look at the need. They'll evaluate the department and look at the overall picture. And I was very fortunate to get these 3. As I said, it was a competitive grant nationwide.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's talk another congratulations, the retirement of Deputy Chief Al Cunningham.
Deputy Chief Al Cunningham retired October 12th. I've said it all along, it's a loss. Deputy Cunningham and I came up through the ranks. We competed, for lack of a better term, throughout the years for promotions. We always were the 2 going for it. It was great because I think without us even knowing it at the time, we made each other better. We had that competition, and it made each one of us become better. And when we eventually ended up in our positions, when Deputy Cunningham went to the administrative deputy and took over the commercial code enforcement and helped me with administrative duties, he went all in. He just went all in. He studied the codes, he learned the codes, he got out there in the public, and he started doing a program that we had never done before. We had had code enforcement before, but on a very limited basis. With the deputy being able to do 40 hours a week, looking at the code enforcement, there is no doubt in my mind, and I've said this at every chance I've gotten, Deputy Cunningham single-handedly has made this community safer.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been awesome. He is a loss. I'm sure the next person will step up and fill the shoes and keep running, but he did the foundation for that program that we will continue into the future, and I will be forever thankful for that. He did a great job, and I appreciate all of his hard work.
Speaking of it being the month of October, we know that it's traditionally Fire Prevention Month. Let's talk a little bit about that, the importance of getting the word out about being safe when it comes to a resident and when it comes to your home and your family.
You know, it's traditionally the Fire Prevention Month. It was Fire Prevention Week, but as we spoke in a previous segment on something else, can't fit it all into one week, so it became Fire Prevention Month. It's really important for us to get the message out. And it's just making people aware. We just want people to be aware of the safety features, whether it's, we'll get to it, smoke detectors, cooking safety, heating safety, steps to take to be safe. Whether it's our young population or our elderly population. We have a SAFE officer, Lieutenant Thomas Ford, who gets into the schools really ramps it up, but he's around a lot. And I think it's imperative that we get into those schools and get to those children so that they can understand the importance. If we go someplace, we want to hear a third or fourth grader say, we had a plan and we had a meeting place. It's working. You know, that's awesome when we hear stuff like that. Or friends of my family or whatever. I have homework tonight. We have to do a fire escape plan. Yeah, you do. And that's being driven by the children. So if we can set good fire safety habits in the children, the school-age children, that should last throughout their lifetime. And eventually, as we get farther on in the generations, hopefully we have a fully, a well-aware entire population of fire safety.
We should also mention, maybe folks, we're looking forward to the open house that a lot of fire stations traditionally do in and around the South Shore. It was wisely thought that maybe it might be better to put it off until the spring. Am I correct?
Yeah. Lieutenant Ford had come to me and he was trying to put one together. And when we were looking at some of the resources available through the Department of Fire Services and the county, such as the smokehouse, the sprinkler trailer, and getting some of the assets available to come in, everybody wants them in October. So when we finally, and he started early, but they were already booked out. So the thought process was, if we move it to the spring, the date will be determined later. If we move it to the spring, we'll be able to get a lot of the resources, have extra stuff here, the tech rescue team, Department of Fire Services, the sprinkler trailer, the smokehouse, and whatever else we can get to have a great open house and incorporate possibly a touch a truck along that event to get people here to see the differences. The sprinkler trailer, if you've never seen it, is amazing. They show you a fire in a sprinklered room versus a fire in a side-by-side sprinklered room and an unsprinkled room. And even for someone who doesn't understand sprinklers or understand fire prevention or how firefighting, it's pretty amazing. And I really want that here. So that's one of the driving factors behind that. And we think it'll give somebody something in the spring to do, but more importantly, it just won't be October. We'll bring up fire safety in the spring. So we kind of keep it going.
Any concern that somebody else might see your idea and want another local firehouse or two, and before you know it, you're back to competing for some of those provisions that are important to teaching the general public?
You know, if we all get into competition on to have great fire safety, that's okay. I'm okay with that. Like, if everybody starts competing to do these events and spreading them out, that's a good thing, because then we have a message that's getting delivered more frequently and throughout the year. But I'll get them.
Okay. So we're getting close to having to fall back. And I know that traditionally that's where the word is put out that you want to maybe take a look, check your fire detectors and your CO2 detectors. Anything else we should also be checking, or are those the two things?
The big push around this time of year is time change. Check your smoke detectors, check your CO detectors, make sure the batteries, and change them out. Even if you think they're good, change them out. There's a bunch of safety features you can look at, and we'll talk about it coming up, but as the winter approaches, we have some concerns just with the winter months in general. But make sure that anything that you have, your furnaces and stuff like that, they're cleared. Stuff's not uptight to them. They need air to work, as well as we don't want anything too close to catch fire. Check around your electrical panels and stuff and make sure you don't have too much stuff stored in there. But the big push is smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. Make sure they're working, check the batteries. A little disclaimer on that we've talked about, I believe, in the past was the new smoke detectors have a 10-year sealed lithium-ion battery. So in that case, all you can do is check them. Make sure they work. And once again, we have Lieutenant Ford has a safe officer, will come out and assist the elderly population. We found that a lot of our seniors did not have smoke detectors. Well, they had them, but they were super old. So he's undertaken a program in which he'll come out and install those smoke detectors for you and make sure they're working. As most places, if a resident needed assistance with their smoke detectors, we're always willing to come out and assist them. We don't necessarily provide batteries, but we'll come out and check the smoke detectors if you need it.
I've had conversations with previous programs that we have done with this firehouse. When it comes to the public, you are called upon for so many different things. Noting that if you have a problem with You know, your smoke detector is one of them. But talk to me about the symbiotic relationship between the fire station and the public.
We are always here. I went to a lecture years ago. You can always call us and we will always come. And that was an analogy back in the day when we had the fire alarm boxes. And it ranged from anything. You have a car accident, there's a medical emergency, someone's doing something wrong, kids need help or whatever, and we used to tell them to pull the hook, pull the fire alarm box. Town of Whitman is transferred over to Central Station Alarms, which is done by cellular and radio communications backup. But everybody has a cell phone. Some people are lucky enough to have two, right? Everybody has a cell phone. If you call 911 and you need assistance, we will come. There's very few things in this world you can guarantee, but if you call, we will come. We come from anything from a water problem, to a fire, to an electrical problem, to a lost person, to someone who needs help up, someone got locked out of their car. We are an all hazards approach. We will assist you the best we can, and if there is something above our level, we know who to call. We will always, that's our goal. And one of the things I think the fire service in general keeps in mind is when we respond to a call, this just might be another routine call for the fire service. But that being said, I think what we keep in mind is this could be this person's worst day of their life. And I know the members here do a great job of that, understanding the needs and providing the needs to the community. This year we've had a lot of flooded basements due to the water issues. We've had an awful lot of rain. We've pumped a lot of basements out, and you got to remember, and the members do a great job of this, is the fact that, yeah, it's just a flooded basement. Well, it's just a flooded basement, but it's not your basement. And they've always kept that in check, that they get the pumps out, they'll help people. We have limited pumps. We do the best we can getting basements pumped out, but unfortunately this year it's been a challenge.
Speaking of challenges, and something that again this program is designed to do is to get the word out, just as a reminder. Some people may have already turned on their furnaces or are using the heat. Maybe some folks have yet to put the first pieces of lumber in their wood stove. I want to make sure a part of our conversation touches upon being prepared and maybe doing a few things before you decide to either turn on your heat or light that first fire.
It's a great question, Kevin. Part of the thing we always recommend is have your oil burner, a boiler, or the gas heater. Have them serviced and checked routinely by a qualified service representative or a qualified technician. You want to make sure they're working. You don't want to have a problem. We experience a thing quite regularly where oil burners, it's a backfire. We call it a delayed ignition. The oil shoots into a chamber, it doesn't ignite, which results in smoke throughout the house, which leads most people to think that their house is on fire. And if you were not used to this, you would truly think your house was on fire. So we highly recommend getting your heating appliances serviced by a qualified representative and knowing a little bit about them. Code is that there's an emergency shutoff on the way out of the house. It's usually at the top of the stairs, could be in the kitchen, or however wherever your heater is. There'll be a red panel that says on and off. That's an emergency switch that you can shut it down. So really just quality maintenance. And the problem is in this day and age, we know prices have soared, right? The other side effect, one of the positive benefits of having heat and having it serviced is it's going to operate more efficiently. So therefore, in the long run, it might save you money over the course of the winter to have a better functioning heating device. As far as wood stoves go, a lot of people use alternative heating, whether it's a pellet stove or wood stove. We don't see too many coal stoves anymore, but I'm sure they're around. You got to make sure that that's cleaned. You don't want to build up a creosote in the flue, which can result to a chimney fire. And chimney fires usually will have a drastic effect on your liner, and you might end up with repairs. And in the worst case scenario, it finds a crack or a defect in the flue and it gets into the house. And then you end up with a house fire. We recommend having your whatever heating device, whether it's your wood stove, fireplace, pellet stove, coal, if anyone's still doing that, maintained and checked to make sure it's still clean. It's really come to light recently, and it's happened a few places. If you're in a new house and you choose to use the fireplace, or you want to use your wood stove, have a qualified person check it, because over the years remodels have taken place, and is that still hooked up? Unfortunately, there have been cases in the South Shore area that people have gone to use their wood stove or their fireplace in a time of power outage, more or less, is when people want to use them that don't normally use them. And it hasn't been connected all the way through the roof. There's been remodels made, so more or less you've started a fire that's going to go to the second floor. And you can do that yourself. You can look up through to make sure it goes. But have it checked and cleaned if you haven't used it in a long time.
Definitely good advice to share with the folks who are tuned into this conversation. How often do you find yourself during the heating season dealing with chimney fires?
I think there's a lot of proactive steps taken by people now. We still have some a year. I can't give you an exact number, but it seems when I was a younger firefighter, we did a lot more. I think there's been a lot of people take the preventative maintenance more serious, but we have some on occasion. Whether it's usually the buildup of creosote, they haven't had it changed, or they haven't used it in a long time, and then they fire it up, and then we get a chimney fire. And hopefully we extinguish it quickly, and it doesn't get into the house. But it does result in some damage to the chimney sometimes.
Again, you are tuned into Crosstalk. Whitman Fire Chief Tim Clancy. It's been a while since we've been here, but it's great to always come in, especially around heating season. And also preventative. Again, that's what we're doing, the later part of this conversation. Let's talk about alternative heating. And I know sometimes folks, in a pinch, knowing that things are tight, may use alternative methods that aren't necessarily safe.
You know, a wise man many years ago told me, when you start using something for the purpose that is not designed to be used, it's dangerous. That was a reference to boating. Using a boat that can't get offshore, you didn't have enough fuel and you'll put yourself in danger. So it's applicable here. If we start using a device in the house to heat that's not designed to provide heat, you're putting yourself in danger. We've seen cases where people are using their ovens for heating. Some other alternative means. The big topic that we've talked about, we've had conversations in the past about this, is the space heaters. People will rely on space heaters to supplement their heat, or it could be their heat. One of the things to remember is, if you do choose to buy a space heater, make sure it's approved by the Underwriters Laboratory. There'll be a sticker on it that says UL approved. Some of the safety features with that is you want one with the built-in safety features. If it tips over, it shuts off. On your part, you want to make sure that if you have a space heater, which we don't recommend at all, but if you have a space heater, you keep combustible materials away from it. You don't want to have the space heater running with a bunch of flammable materials next to it, because as everybody knows, been around them with a construction site, so you've even used one yourself, the heat that throws is enough to start a fire. So the thing is to make sure it's approved by Underwriters Laboratory and pay attention and be cognizant, never leave it running without being there, and keep it away from the combustibles.
Okay. Anything we haven't touched upon in regards to the heating season, being safe as a family? Maybe it might be something to throw out there in regards to, if you are a family that's watching, having a plan in case there is a fire.
If there's a fire, we teach it in the SAFE program in the schools, but everybody should know. Have a plan. Have an escape route. No one wants to talk about it. It's a horrible experience for the families that have been affected by house fires. But talking about it will pay dividends in the end. That if you can say, all right, when I leave, I am going to go out this window and drop down onto the porch. And if we can get down the stairs, we're going to go down the stairs, go to the left, go out through the garage or the front door, however the house is configured, that you have a plan that you can get out. And most importantly, we're all going to meet at the light post, or we're going to meet at the mailbox. So that when we pull up and we say, is everybody out of the house? Someone looks at us and goes, yes, we're all out. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. We're still going to search. We're still going to search. But we know that the family is accounted for. But we will still search. Who knows if someone was sleeping over, they had a friend over, whatever the case may be. We still will search. Having that plan in place, it helps in the long run and will help with survivability. Just one other thing to talk about. I'm also the Emergency Management Director for the town of Whitman. The weather has been different this year. I don't recall this many tornado warnings ever. The rain events that some parts of the state have experienced are incredible. The catastrophic damage that was experienced up in Leominster resembled that of a war zone. And also North Attleboro had a lot of problems with flooding too. A lot of damage. and we're coming into the winter season. I think we can, I'm not a weather forecaster, but I would think we need to have a plan for the winter. We always have plans on operation here when we get prepared for big winter storms, nor'easters, or blizzards. Have some sort of plan. Do you have batteries for your flashlights? Do you have a way to communicate? If the storms are coming, can make sure your cell phones are charged. Everybody has power packs to charge their cell phones because we can't get away from them, right? But have your devices charged up so that you can use them, and have a plan. You know, FEMA has some great stuff, FEMAready.gov. There's a lot of suggestions in there, but have a plan. I just want to relay, if we have a major blizzard and there's power outages, we have a plan. Routinely, we open warming and charging centers so that people can come charge their devices and get warm if they need to. And we have future plans for sheltering if needed as it progresses. General guideline is without power, we expect the plan is 24 to 48 hours before we would think about opening shelters. So to have some stuff around, and not to, I don't want to promote the panic that starts when they start talking a storm, that everybody goes to the store and buys it out. But having some food around, being ready, having some batteries, flashlights. I'm not a huge fan of candles. A lot of people are, and that's okay. Flashlight, batteries, some lanterns or whatever. Just having enough to get by, that you can get through it. And we've been very fortunate in the last major storms we've had that we've worked well with National Grid. And we've been out for some time, but you know, with our infrastructure and where we need to be, we've been fortunate that we haven't been out for long periods of time.
Well, it would be worth noting, as we're closing here, in talking about storms, and if we do in fact get several inches of snow, probably the best thing someone can do for the fire department when it comes to fire hydrants, what should they do?
Adopt your local fire hydrant. Find out where the fire hydrant is closest to your house, and you help us out drastically by shoveling it out. 3 feet by 3 feet around it, so that we can, heaven forbid that there's a fire, but it gives us the ability to find it. You see a lot of stakes on them, so we know where they are. Yep. Poles are marked, and the streets are marked, so we know where they are. But it makes our job easier to be able to get hooked up to the hydrant and get water flowing in the event of a fire. And we truly appreciate it. And after storms, you'll see us out shoveling hydrants. Companies will be out shoveling hydrants, but any and all help is appreciated.
Yeah, especially if you're somebody who has a snowblower. Myself, there's one right across the street, and if I'm out there doing my driveway, first thing I do is just do the 3x3. So if in fact there is a fire in my neighborhood, my area, then at least the fire department will be taken care of. So if you do have a gas-powered tool to clean your driveway, it only takes you a couple extra seconds to kind of clean it off.
And we truly appreciate it. It's when we go into certain areas and we drive down the streets and they're all done. Yep. It just kind of brings a smile to your face. You're like, people, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it.
So it's time for us to wrap up. Quickly, anything in closing that you want to touch upon until our next conversation?
You're always welcome. Come anytime. We enjoy the conversations. We enjoy getting the word out about Whitman Fire. No, we're just going to continuing serving the people the best we can. The door is always open. I'm very reachable. I'm here a lot. So if people have questions, please don't ever hesitate to reach out and ask. I want you to get the right answer. I don't want you to get, my neighbor told me this, or my neighbor told me that. No, just call here. One of the shift commanders, one of the firefighter paramedics will tell you if the shift commander can't, and then it makes it to me. And we'll always be here, and we're going to continue doing what we do, and that's to serve the people of Whitman and the community.
He is Chief Tim Clancy. I'm Kevin Tocci. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Crosstalk. Until our next conversation, have a great day.